imagine walking past a grocery store dumpster and seeing a bunch of food that's there that's wasted. And it could be produce, bread, or even any type of vegetable or meals that are being placed over there and not eaten. And on the side, you see a family that still needs food and can't even spend money on a meal. So here are a few things that I've noticed and can cause frustration for us citizens in general, for us to figure out how we're going to be able to afford a dinner or a meal in general. So to have people in need, we always have to understand the connection between food and the environment that we're around. So today I will be persuading and understanding how large grocery stores should be requiring having donations and a way of matter of giving food to other people. And for this to happen, we need food banks, donations, and understanding how people are experiencing hunger and the wastefulness that we have in society. So with this, we want to understand the environment. And after researching through various different researching tools like the EPA, FDA, and USDA as other resources, it's hard to understand how people are not donating properly. And food and administrations are really important when it comes to this, and I realize how food and waste are a problem within this time. So understanding that is important, and I'll be explaining how groceries, store donations could help solve finally what we want to, and imagine how we can make it a better world in society and this world. First, we need to understand how much food in America is actually being wasted. So according to the EDA, more than 1/3 of food is being wasted within the US and people are not eating it. And in 2019, 66 million people are wasting food within households, within restaurants, and even retailers. And at the time, it was an issue to understand this, and this was found within EPA in 2022. And tons of people are wasting it, and it can cause an issue when it comes to food waste or just in general when people are trying to find a meal. And when it comes to energy and land and transportation are all being affected by this. To go further into this, we can try to understand if edible food exists and if people who need that food also exist, and the need to better connect those two as a solution. So requiring large, greater donations, donate safely, and emphasizing that on how food can be safely sponsored for other people, and distinguishing danger and also safety with that. So regarding the safety of food, according to the FDA, there's some unsold food that still needs to be donated to others as we look at the date of expiration with that. So this can be with dangers of the date that does not automatically mean that it's expired when you see save the date, and can distinguish how people think of it as food is not being safe. So stores should be able to separate those two, so what is eligible for being sold and what is also eligible for being eaten at the same time. And this is kind of explained throughout a source and also something that's found through research in Bill Emerson's Good Samaritan, where food donation is also important when it comes to priorities and liabilities for protection laws and policies. And as I mentioned previously in the beginning about how food is being addressed within times, it's also important to understand the background of it and the historic events that go with that. So understanding the protection that needs to be placed and the policies that need to be placed is also important. And within the diagram, we can see kind of how sending food to landfills and is least preferred because it's not healthy and it's also affecting the environment. And second, on my other point about FDA, is donating food to people is one of the most closer components that can be preferred when it comes to how we should handle the waste of food. Moving on is, if groceries consistently redirect that edible surplus food, it can maximize the results when it comes to the wastage of food. And this could result in imagining grocery stores having this food and then donating it to those that actually need it rather than wastefully having it in a different location. So instead of sending that to dumpsters, employees can separate it into something that's more useful than a garbage can and giving it to someone who actually needs it. and think about how this type of area of things is choosing between a grocery store and then choosing between a landfill at that point. So, and this is kind of across thousands of grocery stores throughout the country, and this is found within the FDA approval of status. And later on, edible surplus is important when it comes to this factor, and it can comply with how hunger has an issue throughout society, but it's not necessarily something that should be continued and fulfilled later on. So one thing to understand within this is the USDA also had this policy specifically into that. So kind of going back to that point is something that's important too. And lastly, today we've kind of seen how all of these components come together in America and how waste has been an important and ongoing issue that's been there for a while. And while food and people here all come together, it's the experience of having that insecurity with food. So having that safe surplus is also important because making sure that there's donations that are there, and the EPA also considers donating food to better people and to enhance the community at the same time. So making sure there's no excess edible surplus is important, and having that sureness when it comes to where food is being transported. It could even be a small contribution that could be made, but it can make a change when it comes to someone's life and their health at the same time. So making sure that we can support that is important, and making sure that we fade away the landfills and go back to the imagination of making sure that family on the side is able to get that meal at the end of the day. So thank you so much for your time and listening.